It's on.
No, where does it show up on your Facebook? Is it?
I'm gonna do, I'll tell you in a minute. I usually do it live on my personal page, Marnita Sandifer, but let me see something for a minute. And yeah, I'm gonna share it on my timeline, Marnita Sandifer. For some reason, my page is not coming up.
Okay.
Okay, so once I hit this, we can start the conversation. I'll start the conversation, okay?
Okay.
Right. All right. Hello, purposeful community, purpose-filled people. We are here today again. I'm Dr. Marnita on fire with P3 Purposepreneur, and I am too excited to be here today. I have an amazing guest with me today. Her name is Andrea Campbell, and let me tell you, I have known Andrea for a very long time. Andrea, I was thinking about this leading up to this conversation. I think I've been knowing you for over a quarter of a century.
Definitely. Definitely.
For sure, right? And
Yeah.
so let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. Andrea, first of all, for those of you who have been following us on our channel, we are talking about build million-dollar legacies with purpose. And I could not have found and asked a better person because that's what she does. She is all about purpose. And so I'm so excited to have this conversation today. But let me tell you a little bit about her. She is an engineer. Who's worked over 20 plus years in corporate. She is a speaker, an author, a transformational coach and consultant, and she works in the area of leadership and personal growth, if I'm correct. And she has her MBA. Girl, you've done some stuff over the years, over the past over a quarter of a century since I've known you. So can you say hello to our guests?
Hello, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today. I was thinking about this as you were talking about how long we've known each other. I met you when I was an undergraduate and you were getting your doctorate degree. And so I just want to let you know that you were such an inspiration to us because it was something seeing this Black woman on Case's campus pursuing her doctorate and then achieving everything that you dreamed of. So I just want to let you know that. And so that had to have been, yeah, it's been 30 plus
It's
years
at 30
ago.
plus years, absolutely.
Yes,
And we
probably
both went to the same
35.
alma mater, Case
Hmm.
Western Reserve University. And I do remember, I think you even came to, back then it was called an MSP program. It was a pre-summer
Yes.
program before y'all
Mhm.
even entered into the university as freshmen. And to
Correct.
watch your journey, oh my God, to watch your journey from where you started to where you are now has been absolutely amazing. And one thing that I really enjoy about you and listening to all the content that you have out there is that you are really about people embracing purpose as it relates to caring, the relationships of caring. Can we go back a little bit, and because oftentimes people are looking for, like in one of your videos, you say they always saying, I'm looking for my purpose. So can you go back a little bit and share with us how did you get there?
Yeah, it was a journey.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of those things. I remember reading the book, A Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. And the very first sentence in that book, it says, it's not about you. Like your purpose is not about you. And even though I read those words, I still didn't know what my purpose was, because I think of purpose, or at least I should say, I thought of purpose as being this big thing, like what was I created to do? Like, why me here now? That comes from Naeem Akbar, who's a psychologist. He always says, ask yourself, why me here now? Why am I here in this day, in this time, in this space? Like, what can I give to the world? And I remember that I was just going through life. I was going through life like a lot of people go through life, just living it. Um, I was successful. I had my own house, my own car, taking wonderful vacations. I had a great job. And then life happened. I ended up being diagnosed with cancer. And going through that experience, it caused me to stop for a moment. It was like an interruption in my life saying, wait a minute, you've had all this success, but are you living a life of significance? And I realized in that moment that everything that I was doing was more so about me, not thinking about how I can contribute to the world. Now, mind you, I was doing some things to help other people, but I was thinking more on a larger scale, like, how can I use my life? Like, what am I born for? Right? Like, when I think about purpose, I think about like the gift we can offer to the world, like what we are born for. And we're born to be a solution. We are born to be an answer to somebody's problem. And
Agreed.
so I was thinking about what that is. And honestly, my cancer journey and the evolution that I went through during that process, I should say cancer journeys, because I went through it twice. The evolution caused me to get clear as to what I believe my purpose is. And when people ask me what is my purpose, I always say it's to open hearts, to blossom compassion, and to help people live their best lives on purpose. Like to live a life where the possibilities of what it is that we desire are limitless. And so that's what I believe that my purpose is. And like I said, I think my cancer experiences caused me to stop and think about it and be more intentional about what it is and how I wanted to show up to the world and how I wanted to be of use to the world.
I think what you've done through that journey is so profound. And you are my cancer sister as well, because I do believe we were going through the journey at in a similar time frame. And I say that because as I listen to you, I'm looking at the name of your company, Vibrant Living with a Y. I think that's amazing. And I've titled this conversation, and you'll see why as we move forward. Vibrant living, is it a purpose or is it a dream?
Mm,
And it really settled with me after going through so much of your content, because oftentimes we have these grandiose dreams, and oftentimes we have to filter through those dreams and try to pull something out of that maybe could be our purpose and maybe it could not. But what I do understand for sure is that when you pull that one thing out, it's so in alignment with how you feel and how you serve people that it just feels right. And oftentimes we ignore our emotions on about what we do and how it makes us feel because of how we made others feel.
right.
So can you take us through how you were able to in your coaching, because you have coaching sessions, how are you able to take a person from where they are now, because you're a transformational coach, where they are now to where they desire to be? Because that's the process, that's a journey. And oftentimes people think it happens overnight, and it does not.
Right.
So in transformational coaching, is there a certain procedure or framework that you use in order to help people move through that?
There is. I have a whole program. There's a 12-week program that goes through the entire process. You know, when I think about coaching, and I'll go back a little bit because when I was going through my first cancer experience, I I worked in the medical industry, and so I would be in the hospitals a lot. And so since I was going through chemo, I couldn't go to the hospital because there with a compromised immune system, it just wouldn't have been good if I would have caught something. So I stayed at home and I was watching Netflix. And this was during the time when was a company where you would have to get the DVDs out of the mailbox and then send them back. And I
Mhm.
remember watching Nip Tuck, which was a great series, and I would watch all these different series. I went through that experience, went back to work, went back to life as was. And then a year and a half later, I was diagnosed with a totally different, unrelated cancer. That time I knew that I couldn't just sit at home and watch TV. Like I had to do something more. And so I decided to take some professional development courses. And one of the courses I took, I can't remember if it was a women's leadership course or what it was, but there was a lady there who said something that I thought was profound. She said, I always knew I'd be somebody. Now I know I should have been more specific. And when
Mm.
I heard those words, I thought to myself, like, I am somebody, but am I that somebody that I wanted to be? And the answer was no. As a
Mhm.
kid, I had all these dreams. I wanted to be a pianist. I loved the piano. I wanted to be a ballerina dancer, but I ended up getting too tall and limbs too long. So all my dreams were just gone. And I sat there thinking to myself, like, where did all that go? And why didn't I achieve what it was that I wanted to achieve? And it was in that moment that I decided to create a vision for my life. I wrote down my vision, all the things that I desire for my life. And I will say this, for someone who has dreams, who want to achieve them, it all starts with a vision because you have to know where it is you want to go. So that's the first step that I do with any and everybody. I actually have a vision workshop coming up in March where I do this and help people get clear on their vision. I realize as a transformational coach and just in the coaching process, that there are a lot of people who don't take the time to look within to actually dream big dreams. We dream what we can see for ourselves, and we put those limits on us when God is saying you don't have to put limits. Like if you can dream it, you can definitely achieve it, right? We've heard that all along, but it's the truth. Like if you allow yourself to dream big, let your imagination go wild, there is no limits on the things that you can do for your life. And so during that same time when I was doing a professional development course, I ended up going and taking a executive coaching certification at Case as well. And so that's when I began with my coaching practice. So that was in 2012. And the thing that I love about it the most is because I get an opportunity to help people go from where they are to where they desire to be and or at least start the journey, right? Because in 12 weeks, they don't change their lives, totally. But the mindset changes, the beliefs changes, and just to see the things that they do actually accomplish is mind-blowing to me. And the other thing that's mind-blowing are listening to the people's dreams
Mhm.
because people have different dreams. I always tell people like when it's given to you, it is for you. It's not for me. Like sometimes I hear things and I'm like, where did that come from? Like that is so cool, but it wasn't given to me because it wasn't for me to do. And so I always tell people like don't let people shame you based on what it is that you have, you desire for yourself, the vision you have. Don't let them tell you what you can and cannot have, what you can or cannot do, because it wasn't given to them. And I don't want I don't know if you have a question, but I wanted to share this quick thing because I talk about it in my book. I talk about it a
Yeah,
lot, but
the name of her book is The Book of Radical Care. I love that title.
no, no, well, no, I have a few books.
Oh, you
But I
have
do have that one is called The Heart of Radical Caring.
the
And
heart of
that is a
radical.
leadership book. Yeah, that's a leadership book for people to bring caring back into the workplace. But the
Gotcha.
book I was referring to is my first book, which is The Beautiful Journey, Finding Purpose Through Cancer. And
Mhm.
that is based on my cancer experiences. But I talk about a segment that I saw with T.D. Jakes. And he talked about the turtle and a giraffe. And he said that a turtle and giraffe can occupy the same space. But because they have different vantage points, being that the turtle is low to the ground and the giraffe stands tall, their vantage points are different. And so just because a giraffe has a vision that a turtle can't see, doesn't mean that it's something wrong with the giraffe. It's just that the turtle can't see that vision. So I always think about that when people say what I can and can't be or what I can have. Like they're just a turtle. Like not that they're wrong, they just can't see it from their vantage point. So
Right.
that's what I just wanted to share in regards to that, because we all can have whatever is given to us, whatever dream that we desire, we can have it for ourselves.
So you talk about helping people transform their perspective, and perspective is so important. How
Mhm.
you see things, and particularly how you see yourself.
Right.
So how do you encourage people to begin to see themselves differently in a way that gives them a different perspective than what they have been living into up to that point?
Yeah, I think it starts with self-awareness, right? I believe everything starts with self-awareness, looking within, doing that introspection and saying, who am I? Like, who am I really? And how am I showing up in this world? And I love affirmations, right? When we can say, I am enough, I am good, I'm wonderful, money's coming to me, like all that is great. But it's something when you don't believe it. So I would say that you have to have the belief. And the belief comes when you actually sit down and think about what it is that you believe about yourself, the stories that you're telling yourself, and noticing what you're saying to yourself. So being that observer of your life and saying, okay, so I heard myself tell myself, girl, this is too hard for you. You don't have enough experience to do this. You
Mhm.
aren't worthy of love. Like whatever it is that you're telling yourself, notice that thought and then write it down. And I
Mhm.
also tell people to question, is that true? Because most of the time, the things that we hear ourselves say is not true. I was on Cleveland Clinic's website talking about the brain, and they say we have 70,000 thoughts per day. 70,000. And out of those thoughts, 80% are negative. So we have an influx of negative thoughts telling us what we can't do, trying to keep us from realizing our brilliance and our greatness, right? And so we have to combat that all the time. So
Mhm.
you figure if that's 70,000 thoughts, 80%, that's 56,000 thoughts that's negative.
Mhm.
That's a lot.
That's huge. And most of those thoughts, like you said, 80% are negative. But here's the most impactful part for me is that they're negative, impeding us from what we can be. Because the
Correct.
next thing you talk about is to discover your identity, I say to discover, develop, and deploy your identity. And that's just not a one and done. So I think when you say identity, or when people say identity, they don't give it much weight, but that's where it begins,
Yeah.
right? And so how would you walk someone through who really don't know who they are? Like they just know their name is Jim Bob, right? But they don't
Yeah.
know who Jim Bob is. So how do you help people get to discover, develop, and deploy their authentic identity?
Yeah. So I mean, there's tons of exercises that we do. I just wrote another book. I realized when I was thinking about this today that I like to write self-help books. All my books are about helping people become a better version of themselves, right? But my topics are all over the place. So you talked about my book, The Heart of Radical Caring, which is a leadership book. I mentioned my book, The Beautiful Journey, Finding Purpose Through Cancer, which is about me finding my purpose through that experience. But I also just wrote a book called I Need a Man, 7 Winning Strategies to Attract Love. And this is a self-help book too, because really in order to attract love, we have to be our best selves. And so when I go there and I think about like what tools can people use in order to figure out who they are, it starts with values. I remember when I was in my business class, when I finally attended business school, I wanted to go to get my MBA for years. And every time I applied, they were like, you know, you need some work experience. So I'm like, let me go get some work experience and then come back. In my very first class, we had to do an exercise about our values. Like, what are our top 5 values? And I can honestly say that I did not know what my top 5 values were at that time. And I realized when I did that self-examination that the reason I went into engineering was for all the wrong reasons. Someone told me that you're good at math and science, you should be an engineer. And I was like, okay, I didn't know what it meant. Then that you get to school and you realize there's all these disciplines of engineering to go into. And so I chose chemical because I said, if I'm going to be an engineer, why not be the one that makes the most money? You know, this was before computers was around. And so I went into chemical engineering. When I took that class and I discovered my core values, money was nowhere on there. I had made a whole life decision on something that wasn't even true to myself.
But
Well,
isn't
me
that
being
what
true to
most
myself.
people do? Isn't that what
Most
most
people do. And that's because we don't know what it is that we value. Like our values should be what drives our decisions, right? But if you don't take the time to know what's truly important to you know, not somebody else, not living somebody else's values, but what is important to you, then you can say, okay, now I'm doing what it is and being who I am supposed to be. So that is one thing that I always tell people to do is to do the introspection, find out what it is that you value. You know, is it family? Is it love? Is it, you know, whatever it is.
so Andrea, so we're having this conversation 30 years out.
Mhm.
There was a time when we were just entering into college. Everybody is telling us, they told me the same thing. You as a Black woman going and getting your science degree, it was started out with a bachelor's, then a master's, then a PhD in chemistry. You will be making all kinds of money. Like the opportunities will be like very expansive for you.
Mhm.
So, what about that person who is listening to us right now, who's probably been told the same thing about what they should major in? How do you advise them to think about, like, is this really what I want to do? Because it takes a lot of courage at that point. So, when we are 19, 18, you know, going into
Yeah.
college, it takes a lot of courage to go up against all the pressure.
Yeah. It is unfortunate that we expect kids, right? And I can
Right.
say that now, that we expect kids to know what they want to do with their whole life when they're 17, 18 years old. What I would say to someone who's in that position, right, is to know what brings you joy, what makes you come alive. When I went into engineering, I didn't know what it meant. I remember I have an interview that I was watching recently. When I was in high school, I ran in this peace run in the USSR. So this was before Russia broke off. And it was all these communist countries that came together. And so I was interviewed because I was the only student and one of 3 Americans that had gone to represent the United States. And so they asked me what I wanted to be. And I said I wanted to be, I don't even want to say what I wanted to be because it was supposed to come out electrical engineer. But because I didn't know what an electrical engineer was or even how to say the word, it came out something way wrong. So when I look at it, I think to myself, like, why did I allow someone to pressure me into doing something that I didn't even know about and nothing that even brought me joy? You know, there's a quotation by Dr. Howard Thurman, and he was a mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King. And he said, don't do what the world needs. Go do what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is more people to come alive. And that is the truth. You know, a lot of times parents, teachers crush dreams of their children and of the children that they teach. I wanted to be a pediatrician. I still to this day wish I would have done that because that is what I loved. I love being with kids. I still love kids, but I allowed someone to come in and take my take the direction a totally different way than what I wanted to. So I would say to someone, just be true to who you are. Know what your values are. That's a great start. And you
Yeah,
can figure out, oh, I'm sorry.
no, go
No, I was
ahead.
gonna say you could figure out values, like you could Google list of values and you'll get over 400 and just find the ones that speak to your heart, to who you are authentically, and then come up with the top 10 and then narrow that down to your top 5 and rank them. And I post them on my bathroom mirror so that I can see them every day, so that I know like these are what's going to drive the decisions that I make, especially when it comes to big decisions in my life.
And that's important because, it's not that you pick them today and they will be constant throughout your life, because values have seasons, and your priorities, how you make your decision is going to follow what you value. So when you say that, oftentimes we don't know what we value. And I think you may in one of your YouTube videos, you do talk about Google values, and there's like over 400 something plus, names that you can pick the one that resonates with you best, and get at least top 5, top 7, or even if you can't do 5, do 3. And then make that, like, post them where you can see them every day. And yes, set your priorities and they will guide your life. And so when you talk about that, I think I remember you saying something in the video as it relates to care. It was something that I'm thinking, like, when you say on your website, you say you use is care a framework on how you provide transformational coaching?
Yeah, so I have so many videos on YouTube that I don't know exactly which one you're talking about, but I will say this, in the work that I do with organizations, it is
Mhm.
about bringing caring to the workplace. And so I do have an initiative that deals with that. So it's about how you care for your organization, your peers, the customer or patients or clients you serve, and yourself, right? So it's similar. What I created in this whole framework is similar to what emotional intelligence is. So how well you can understand emotions of yourself and other people, but this is about caring specifically. And so it's really to help one get employees more engaged. And so I wouldn't say for the individuals that I coach that it's all
Kind.
about caring. Pardon me?
It was kind. You said kind.
Kindness. Yes.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was kind.
Kindness. Yes.
Kind was a value that you had that you
Yes.
didn't even know would even be on your list. That's what
Yes.
it was.
Kindness. Yes. Kindness. That is. So one thing about me is that I'm all about all of that good stuff that just helps elevate our vibration and just make us feel good. Like I am about compassion. So when I say to open hearts and blossom compassion, I am about compassion. I see a need. I want to help. And I always laugh when I tell people this story. Like I took a whole compassion training course. Like people don't even know that exists, but through Emory University, they have a whole program that's about helping you learn to be more compassionate to others as well as yourself, because these are tools that you can develop to help you and other people along the journey. But I'm all about kindness, about caring, about compassion, about empathy, all those things that really deal with helping elevate humanity. So,
Okay, so once you've discovered your identity, this is the third thing that you help people do in the process, is to explore opportunities. And so exploring opportunities, I think opportunities, once you know your identity, it gives you options. So having the ability to explore opportunities, how would you guide one to, decipher, once they have their values in place, what opportunities would be best for me in this season as a coach? Because I think a coach helps other people see themselves, because you
mhm.
can't be your best self by yourself. So as a coach, how do you help people see themselves when it comes to exploring opportunities for the season that they're in?
Yeah, and you know, instead of using the word opportunity, I probably would use the word possibility. And the
Possibility.
reason is because a lot of times we don't think beyond what we see. Because sometimes you are limited to what you've experienced and what you've seen other people experience. And so one of the things that I do, and I mean this goes back to the vision, is that, and this is why it starts there, because when I help people with their vision to actually get them to a place where they feel like they're truly living what it is that they desire, I make sure that how they see it and how they experience is way bigger than what the small thinking would get them, right? So it's really about allowing them, you know, changing the mindset, the beliefs that they have about what they deserve, and let them understand, you know, or increase their sense of deserving. I could say it that way, but understand that there is so much more than what it is that you are experiencing now in this little bit of moment that you have in this world, that you've had in this world, and that you can have way more than what you desire. I think I remember one year I had a mantra that I put on my door that goes to the garage. So every time I walked out my door, I would see it. And it was something like dream big, like what was I should know it because I said it for so many, I kept it for 2 years because it was just that important to me. But it was really about dreaming big and taking the limits off of God. It goes back to, are you familiar with Marianne Williamson, who wrote the book Return to Love or Return to
Yes.
Love? And she says, our playing small doesn't serve the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I believe that. We can't play small. Like, we aren't here to be small people. Like
I,
the lives that we see of people like Oprah, because she's someone who I admire, so I'll use her. But someone, whomever you think of that has a big life, like it's not just reserved for them, you know? And it's like, how can I get that for myself? And it starts with the beliefs that we have, the paradigms that we operate in this world with, you know, and being able to change them. You know, I wrote about this in my latest book, and and I talk about this on one of my YouTube videos, and it's talk about River Reed thinking. And in India, they train baby elephants, calves, right? By putting a thick rope around their ankle and then putting the other end, staking it in the ground. And so anytime the elephant tries to roam, it'll feel that tug and say, you can't go any further. As the elephants mature and get bigger, they used what is called river reed, which is like a plant out of the water, right? So it's, you know, they can break it. But because they've been programmed and conditioned to believe that when they feel a tug, they can't go any further, that's what happens. So they just tie them up with river reed. And these big elephants that could get away don't go any further because they've been trained to not go any further when they feel that. And when I think about us as people,
mm-hmm.
we have that same rope around our brain, you know, that says, I can't go any further. And so it's like working through those things and acknowledging the fact that there are no limits, that the limits that we have are the ones that we put on ourselves. And so when thinking about the possibilities, it's about believing that there are none. You know, when they say impossible, it's saying I'm possible, right? It's only impossible until it gets done.
Mhm.
Did
So I think that is also speaks to one's ability to believe that they actually have authority
Mhm.
to walk into their possibility. I don't think that's modeled to us enough, uh, especially growing up. And so having the ability to put yourselves in the rooms with other people like you have, because I know you've been in Oprah's room, you follow her a lot, and probably other people's rooms as well. How has watching them enable you to believe that you can walk in your authority?
So here's the thing. I mean, it's always great to have role models or mentors to show you the way, right? But I do know for me, and I'll say this going back to values. I think for the most part, our values kind of stay the same unless something major happens in our lives. And then those kind of things help us reevaluate and they may change, right? I think for me, when I went through the cancer experience, it did something to me, right? And I appreciate it. I always talk about, it was a blessing going through cancer because it was in that moment that I was no longer just existing, right? Living life and letting it happen to me. I was actually more intentional about creating the life that I wanted. So, me being in the room with Oprah the numerous times that I have, I created those opportunities. Now, I didn't create them by myself. Some of them, actually, one of them came after I wrote a list of 20 things I wanted to experience. This is why I think it's so important to write down the vision versus just saying it and putting it on a vision board, because when you write down something, you're more apt to actually do what it is that you write down. And I wrote down that I wanted to meet Oprah. And probably a month later, I had the opportunity to meet her. Now, mind you, I had to be in the space where she was, and I was able to create that. But the one thing that I couldn't create was our interaction with each other. I remember, because I was a big fan of Oprah, I wanted to see her. And so I knew she was coming to Detroit. I bought a ticket to go. I bought a VIP ticket because they said you could get a picture. So I'm like, perfect. This is the time I could tell her everything that she meant to me when I was going through my cancer experience, because I would sit and watch her live classes and watch her on TV all the time. And I remember right before we took the pictures, they said to the audience that was there to take it, she heard every story. Get in, take your picture, and get out, because it's a lot of people here. She doesn't have time to hear what you have to say. But prior to that, I had practiced like for my 30-second pitch to her, right? Of everything I wanted to say. And so I was like, when they said you can't, to just keep it moving. And I'm a rule follower. I don't really break the rules. I'm going to do what you ask me to do. But I see her, and she looks at me and was like, oh my gosh, like we knew each other. And at that time, I had like brush waves, and she rubbed my head. So, as a Black woman, when you rub somebody's head, we're best friends now, right? So I'm like,
Exactly.
she opened the opportunity for me to say everything that I had practiced for those 3 weeks prior to. I couldn't have made that happen, but it was something, one, that I was able to materialize because I envisioned it for myself. I had written it down that this is what I wanted to do. Now, after that, I realized, like, this is pretty cool. I got my picture. I'm looking to see, it's over there, so I can't get it. But I have my picture with her. And then I realized, you know what? That wasn't enough. I wanted to have a sit down conversation with her. And I was able to do that back in probably maybe 2021. I was able to have a conversation with her one-on-one, which was awesome. Well, it wasn't really one-on-one. It was like 9 of us there, but we all had the opportunity to have our individual time with her to have a conversation. And it's just one of those things, when you dream, you just keep dreaming bigger and bigger, because now I want to have a conversation with her in Hawaii overlooking the water with the sun going down. Like, it keeps getting bigger and bigger because I see the possibilities, right? So it's something about when you achieve something that you have set a goal for, that when you see it is possible, then you can continue to dream bigger and bigger. And every time along the way, when you make things happen, you start believing in the bigger possibilities.
That's why your thoughts are so important, because your thoughts produce your life. And if you
Yeah,
want a different life, you have to change your thoughts.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's exactly what I'm hearing that you did. And so that's amazing. So if someone wanted to, like, one, get your books, get your coaching programs, where do they go?
Yeah, so the best way to get all of those is to reach out to me. So like I said, I have all my books that are different types of books, but I was just reading my second one today. And I'm not being biased. They really are great books, great tools to help you be your best, whether it's being a leader in your own life or in other people, or if you just want to know about my journey finding purpose. Because in the book when I first wrote my book, I have space where you can go on your own journey of self-discovery and awareness, right? So it's not just my story. It's my story about adversity, but we all have gone through something. And it's a matter of knowing that it didn't just happen to you, but for you. And so that's what that book is about. And then the I Need a Man is self-explanatory,
So a
right?
lot, a
It's
lot of
for
us,
those
a
who,
lot of us don't be reading that
yeah,
book, the man.
those who desire, yeah. I mean, who recognize that there's a need for a man. Not that I just want one. And it's not a desperation thing because I'm self-sufficient without one, but I desire partnership, companionship, etc. I need a man for the life that I want. So all of those can be purchased through me, and you can reach me. My email is andrea@andreadcampbell.com. So Andrea is Andrea at andreadcampbell.com. And so that's the best way to get in touch with me. If you're on social media, you can find me at Andrea D. Campbell as well. Let me see. And I do have a website, andreadcampbell.com. So those are the best ways to get in touch with me.
Okay. So as with every conversation, I like to standardize the conversation with 3 questions. And so the
Okay.
first question is, what is your favorite quote that inspires you when you feel that you're not living at your highest level?
When I'm not living at my highest level. Yeah, so I could go back to 2. I could go back to one that I said, I always knew I'd be somebody. Now I know I should have been more specific because that quotation reminds me that I could be way more than what I am. Even though I think I'm pretty dope right now, there is so much more that I can do, be, and have. So that's a good one. But my favorite quotation that I really pattern my life around is from Dr. Maya Angelou. And she says, "My mission in life is not to merely survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some style, and some humor." Those are her words, my life. And so those are the ones that get me ready to go, and to uplift myself when I'm not at my best.
Okay. 2, what is the one book that has made a difference as you are living out your purpose?
I love books. I love, love, love books. And I was just telling someone I'm more of a nonfiction type book. I love memoirs and I love books that's going to help me grow. If I had to think of my favorites, that's a tough one because I get so much out of so many. But I will say this one as a recent favorite is
Okay.
the 5 AM Club.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that one I enjoy because it reminds me to get up in the morning. I am so much more productive when I am up at 5 AM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a real good one. I read that one as well. And the last one, what tool do you use to continue to elevate and grow in what you have been purposed to do?
Mhm. So let me say this. As a coach, one of my favorites, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Miles Monroe, but
Of
he
course.
was okay, so he was a preacher, but for the audience, if they don't know, he was a preacher and he always had some wonderful things to say. And one thing that he said that I take with me is that the richest place on earth is the cemetery because there lies unrealized dreams and untapped potential, books that haven't been written, stories that hadn't been told, dreams that haven't been dreamt, even to that extent. And so, when I think about coaching, that is an opportunity to help people tap into their potential, the potential that they didn't realize they have. I read somewhere that it said we use about 11% of our potential. And I
10.
think about what if we move that needle to 15? Our lives would look totally, totally different. And so that is what I try to do when I help people in coaching. And so I would say, even for myself, I need coaches, right? And so that is what helps me or who helps me when I need to get pushed along in the journey as well. Because typically when I have a coach, it's someone who knows more than I do, right? Who's been where I am and can take me to where I need to go to that next level. So I definitely would have to say coaching is the one
That's
tool.
so good. So hopefully our audience, you've dropped some purpose gems for us today as it relates to vibrant living. Is it a purpose or is it a dream? And it's a question that each one of us has to answer for ourselves as we move forward in our own journeys. And I really appreciate you being on this channel with me today to share your journey. And hopefully it has had some impact and an influence for others where they can now reach out to you and get more information as they continue on their journey, because I think you would be a perfect resource in helping them uncover their purpose, not find their purpose, because we were all born with one. So, is there anything else that you would like to leave our audience with before we end this conversation? Because I will be back.
Yeah, you know what I would like to say, because when I think about purpose, and I talked about this a little bit, like it seems like that big thing that's out there that's hard to find. And I heard someone say recently their thoughts about purpose, and it really stuck with me because I said, this is what it really is about. It is the gift you offer to meet the need in a community that you're a part of. What experience, talent, skills, resources do you have to meet the need in a community that you're a part of? We can do that every day. So we don't have to look for this big grand thing as to what our purpose is, but how can I affect someone's life today? And going back to what I said, that we're born to be a solution. We are born to be God's answer to someone else's prayer. We can do
That's
that
why
every day.
that's why we were created.
Yeah, every day.
That's perfect. So thank you again. I am Dr. Marnita, along with Andrea Campbell, bringing you the conversation for the day on Build $1 Million Legacies with Purpose. And until our next conversation, like, subscribe, share, and her links will be in the description area, and we will speak to you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so
Okay.
uh-oh.